Hi, this is Melanie again. This week we talked about or we read about Meisner and his technique, and I found it very confusing at first. I had to actually do more research outside of it, and it wasn't until I started planning my lesson plan that I started to understand it better. And after watching a lot of videos and looking forward at the techniques that come after the repetition technique, I was better able to understand it. So in my discussion post, I wrote about being confused about it. Um, and then, like I said, as I looked more into it, it started to make more sense to me. And I started to understand why he started with the basic repetition exercise. Um, the author on page 148 talked about or stated that Meisner approach emphasizes working off the other person who is the source of the actor's inspiration and stimulus in performance. And that, I think, really sums it up and made it more clear to me. And again, after watching videos of it, I started to understand that better. But I think it's definitely something that it takes a lot of work and practice on for even actors to be able to do it successfully. Something I wrote in my post is that I definitely would want to try it with my students and then move forward into the other exercises that come after that. So the activity exercise is that's the one that I actually wrote my lesson plan on, and I think that that would be a good one to do with my students, which is middle school. So after doing the repetition exercise several times and making sure that they were able to do that, then I would move forward. I think that, I had a question also about using the repetition exercise, understanding that, each actor works off of each other, and obviously that's the real authenticity comes from that. But I was wondering, how would this work with somebody just on stage by themselves or performing a monologue? Is there some type of Meisner technique that would work for that as well? That would be interesting to know. I do love in the chapter how the author uses the death of a salesman example to explain it better, when he talked about the two characters and the brothers and how they were having this conversation, and using that as an example also helped me to really understand it better. So overall, I thought it was an interesting chapter, but I really did learn more after looking into other resources when it came to planning my lesson. The second essay we read was about the neighborhood playhouse. And again, I thought that was very interesting. And it also talked about the repetition exercise. And Courtney says in that paragraph or in that chapter that the repetition exercise removes the pressure to be clever, interesting, and exciting in what one has to say. The focus isn't on the self, but on the partner. So that really stood out to me. And it really helped me to understand how, an actor can take the pressure off of themselves by thinking of it that way. I think that would help them to, not be so focused on themselves and think only about what they're going to say, what they're going to do. So that was really helpful to me and made sense. The other takeaway from that chapter is when it says Meisner defined talent as the ability to create freely what the imagination dictates. That really resonated with me because I feel like that's true of all artists of all different forms of art. We as an artist have in our head, our imagination, what something should look like. And I feel like, when we think we're successful is when other people can see our picture, our imagination, what we wanted it to be if others are able to see it. So that was really interesting to me. And then my last takeaway in the chapter was I love how the Playhouse trains actors for all different types of performing arts. So they talk about, they teach singing and speech and voice and dance. So not just acting. And I think that's very important because, we use our whole bodies when we're performing. And so I think that's really important. Anyway, it was very eye-opening for me learning about Meisner this week. And at the beginning of the week, I knew really nothing and didn't understand it. But by the end of the week, I felt like much more comfortable. And so I think it's really cool that I was able to learn a lot about Meisner. Thank you.